Hello this rainy day. It's me, Karen Romano Young, back with another chapter of A Girl, a Raccoon, and the Midnight Moon, with pictures by Jessixa Bagley, published by Chronicle Kids in 2020. Chapter 21, A Favor from a Friend, September 29th. A chilly morning told Pearl it had been a cold night. Half awake, she was glad to think of the little raccoon family in the library, cozy and warm. But then, had Nichols slept in the garden in the cold? After walking her home, had he gone back where she had found him? Pearl's shoulders sagged. She was disgusted with herself. The whole point of her nighttime trip last night was to confirm where Nichols slept, but all she'd thought about was the magic of the scene in the reading room. She could fix it now. "Mom," she called, "we have to leave a little early this morning, okay?" "Fine, put the kettle on in." "Mom, can you make tea at work?" Before Mom could respond, she added, "I'm drinking milk right now." She opened the refrigerator, knowing Mom could hear. "And I'm getting out a yogurt and a granola bar, okay?" "Pearl, I've got errands to run before—" "No, Ma, this is important. You've got to come." Pearl was sure that Mom was going to argue. She thought of the man in question, of how he listened, of how he helped her figure out things about the raccoons, of how he kept on coming to the library each morning, of how he kept on walking off into the darkness each night. What could she do for him? Mom opened the bathroom door with a mascara in her hand, her eyebrows raised. "I want to show you where I saw Mr. Nichols sleeping one time," Pearl said. "Pearl, that's his business," said Mom. "Just come." Mom looked reluctant, embarrassed, but she followed Pearl to the shadowy street near the river. A tent was pitched on the loading dock, and a couple of cardboard boxes could be seen there too. But no umbrellas, no Nichols. "At least sometimes," said Pearl, "he comes here and sleeps behind Alice's giant umbrella." Mom sighed. "And then I'm also pretty sure he stays in a sleeping bag in the library garden," Pearl said. "I think that might be where he slept when he first got here, because he hid some clothes in a box in the garden. But he didn't sleep there for a while after the so-called break-in." She paused and looked at Mom pointedly. "If I was an adult with an apartment of my own, I'd invite Mr. Nichols to stay with me." Mom said, "Oh, Pearl, he wouldn't come. I know that for a fact." Pearl thought about what that meant. She knew Mom cared about Nichols, but she hadn't considered that Mom might have already offered to help him. "You asked him?" What else had Mom done that she hadn't told Pearl about? "Why are you only telling me this now?" she demanded. Mom put her hand on Pearl's shoulder. "Because it seems like you understand better now," she suggested. "Because you're looking for solutions too? Because the complexity of this situation is not lost on you?" Pearl thought about those words, deciphering them. "There are things I don't get about him," she said. Mom smiled, sighed. "Yes," she said, "that's what I mean. Knowing what you don't know is a big part of growing up. Aren't you going to explain to me the stuff I don't understand?" "There is nothing to explain, that's the thing." Pearl rubbed at her face. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said stormily. "What I mean is we are equals on this one, Pearl. We're together in only knowing part of what matters when it comes to Mr. Christopher Nichols." "Christopher? That's his name, you didn't know?" "I never thought about him having a first name." "Well," said Mom, "now we're equals." Second things second. If only school wasn't a factor in her life, but it was. She had no choice but to head down the library basement steps well before opening, even if 8 in the morning was most certainly too late to wake a raccoon up. She tiptoed into the gloom behind the stairs, turned on the flashlight to avoid stepping on anybody, and rudely shined its beam right into the bigger raccoon's face. The little kit squeaked and turned his face away, sticking his head under an old piece of carpet that formed part of their nest. "Sorry, Eric," she said. He stuck his head out and met her eyes for a beat, then hid himself again. The other raccoon, Mary Ann, reached up a paw and pushed the flashlight aside. "I saw you in the reading room," Pearl whispered. Mary Ann shook her whiskers and glared. Was this an answer? It sure looked like a no, but maybe it was just a random raccoon gesture. "Can you talk?" whispered Pearl. Mary Ann shook her head again. "Can you write?" Pearl pulled out her Sharpie and some catalog cards and laid them on the floor. Easily, as if she'd done it 1,000,000 times, the raccoon curved the claws of her right front paw around the pen. Her grip looked awkward, but the writing came steady and even and quick. It was the same writing as on the 2 notes, "Ask Mrs. M. and come down again," but not the Eric Lancaster writing from the Raccoon book. And here's Marianne writing. We speak, but it's usually like phrases like "come on" or "let's go" or "hurry up." Those all mean the same thing, said Pearl. It was an automatic response, but she could scarcely suppress her amazement. She tried to stop beaming. She was trying to hide that she was astonished that a raccoon could communicate at all. Never mind with other raccoons, but with humans? Never mind communicate, but write? Exactly, wrote the raccoon. Raccoon talk seems like the seagulls in Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo, the Disney Pixar movie from 2003, said Pearl. They say mine, mine, but people think they're just screeching. Your talk sounds like ack, ack, ack to me. We're better than that. It's not all just squabbling. The raccoon fell silent, her pen poised. Her sentences even had proper capitalization and punctuation, Pearl noticed. I'm Pearl Amelie Moran, she said. The raccoon nodded. What's your name? You haven't guessed? Actually, maybe I have. Marianne Malamar? She finished saying it just as Marianne finished writing it. Yes. Marianne Malamar. There was a satisfied silence between them. Then Pearl said, my initials are P.A.M. Yours are M.A.M. Marianne nodded. She wrote, P.A.M. and M.A.M. You're a poet, and you know it, said Pearl, like Vincent. Vincent! She was the reason Pearl was here, to find Vincent's head, to save the library. But she knew she needed to go slowly, not demand everything at once. And still she was trying to calm down about the fact that she was holding a discussion with a wild animal. So she made conversation. There's a lot of squabbling in my house, too, said Pearl, trying to pretend this was all normal. My mother and I don't see eye to eye on everything, such as cleaning standards. Mary Ann's little white teeth showed for a moment. My mother gets mad at Eric for making a mess. My mother's the messy one, said Pearl. She gets all the control stuff out of her system at the library, Bruce says. Does she control you? She tries, said Pearl, but I have my own plans. Like what? Pearl had thought maybe she could teach the raccoons to talk or do tricks once she had found out from them who had taken Vincent's head. Now she found herself wondering if Marianne was smarter than she was. An investigation and a marketing campaign, I think. She had pulled that phrase marketing campaign out of the back of her head. Marianne wrote, to save the library? Pearl nodded. Yes, that was it. Saving the library by marketing it. Not to Mr. Bull or Mr. Dozer either. No, to people who wanted to keep it the way it always had been. Marianne wrote one of the first things she had ever learned to read, a slogan that used to be on an old billboard over Lancaster Avenue. Just do it. I don't know where to start, said Pearl. My grandmother told me about selling papers, said Marianne. The first thing is to let people know the paper's there. Then you have to make them want it. Your grandmother, Mrs. Malamar? Marianne nodded. Just then they heard Mom calling out for Pearl. Marianne put down the Sharpie. She held up her paw. Pearl held up her hand, too. Pearl thought, this probably isn't real. Just in case it wasn't, she stood still and said, Did you see who took the statue's head? The raccoon shook her head, but she took 2 steps toward Pearl. Pearl! Mom yelled from above. School! A sidebar about my cousin Eloise. My cousin Eloise wants to beat me at everything. She is snotty to me and tells me to get my head out of the books. I tell her, knowledge is power. She tells me to pay attention to the real world and maybe I'll see some surprising, even disturbing things. Eloise lives in the tree right above Vincent. She claims she knows who took Vincent's head, but she won't tell me who. She says the criminal's true identity would surprise and disturb me. So, if knowledge is power, says Eloise, then I beat you, brains and all, by M.A.M. Pearl thought, well, that is real. Mom upstairs, so it must be real downstairs, too. She crouched low, looked into Mary Ann's deep dark eyes, and said, if we could find the head again, it would be a big deal. It might bring people back to the library. She took a deep breath. Will you? Will you ask around and see if your family knows anything? Mary Ann bobbed her head once. Then she stepped back into the shadowy corner of the basement. Pearl crept up the stairs. She dashed through the foyer, grabbing her backpack from the floor in front of the cert counter along the way. I'm walking to school with Francine, Pearl bellowed to her mother, and was gone. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.